When we start looking at exchange rates, the plot actually thickens, because exchange rate is more complicated than what we've seen so far. First of all, exchange rate, we've got 2,000 queries to it, and we can see that the variation there is quite high, many different queries. But on the other hand, this is not a many-to-one relation. We can see that we're getting the rows where currency is equal to a value, but where effective date is less than the order date. This indicates that we are getting several rows and only using the top one, and the order by reverse is also a good indication for that. What probably goes on here is that we are getting the latest available value for that currency based on the order date. So this rules out caching, okay, because the variety is very big, and it also rules out join, because a join can only be done from many to one. If you do a join from many to many, it will multiply the number of rows that you're iterating on. So that's bad. We want to use the same rows. So the way to get around that is to use the get value inner select. And inner select is a very powerful SQL tool that we very much enjoy using in these kind of cases where we cannot use cache and we cannot use join. Inner select becomes our friend. Now, since writing inner select can be a bit complicated, we created an inner select helper class that you've seen in other videos. Let me show you how can we apply this to this code. And my goal in this refactoring is also to remain compliant both to Btriv and SQL, so let me show you how we do all that. First, let's review where exchange rate is being used. I'll right-click it and do Find All References, and I'll get a list of all the places it is used in. Let's review them one by one. Over here, it's used for the relation. Great. And here we are adding a few columns to the columns collection, but the only place it's actually used is this one. Okay, we are actually using it in this expression in understanding the row total. So first thing I want to do, I want to limit the usage of the table itself, since in SQL we will not use a relation. I want to go ahead and use a local field instead of the physical field. So instead of using rate from exchange rates, I'm going to use rate from our own controller. Let's go to its definition. Go to definition. I'll copy the rate, the field definition from the table. Go back to our controller and add it to the columns region. Great, so we have our own rate column. We don't even need to make it public, so we'll take the public away. And in the columns collection, we're going to add rate, and we are going to say that we'll bind the rate's value to exchange rates.rate. Perfect. Let's run this and see that it runs. It still runs and we're getting the same result. So the first phase of using the get value inner select is to replace the real field with a local field. Let's review the change that we've done. We can see that we've added the field to our columns region, and we can see that we've added a bind value for it, and we added it to the columns collection. But what we actually did not do is change the expressions that we wanted to change. So let's go to our expression, and instead of using exchange rate from the exchange rate table, we're going to use our controller's own exchange rate. Perfect. Let's run it and see that it runs. We're still getting interesting values, so it runs, and we're happy with it. And again, we'll review. Added the column, added it to the column collection with a bind value, and used it in our expression. Great.